Cold wind blew through the broken streets of New Terra City, rain falling like silver needles from the sky. The buildings were old and dark, covered in rust and flickering lights. Evan pulled his thin jacket tighter and walked faster, his shoes splashing in muddy water. His stomach growled, but he ignored it. He only had one thing on his mind: finding a job. Any job before night came. His mother was sick, lying weak in a small rented room back in the lower block. Her medicine cost more than what he made in a month. He had tried everything: cleaning, repairing, even carrying heavy metal scraps for a few credits. But this week no one wanted to hire humans anymore. After the war with aliens ended, humans were seen as the weaker race. Machines and hybrid workers had taken most jobs, and people like Evan were left behind. As he walked past another closed shop, his heart sank. The glowing board said, "No humans needed." He lowered his head and kept walking through the rain. Feeling small in the giant city full of noise and lights, everywhere he looked, drones hovered above like silent watchers, their red eyes blinking. He hated those things. They reminded him of the war. Then something caught his eye. A small sign flickered in blue light, hanging above a narrow alley. The letters read, "Help Wanted." He stopped, his heart suddenly beating faster. Was this real? Was someone still hiring? He looked around. No guards, no humans warnings. He wiped the rain from his face and stepped closer. But as he did, he saw a small figure standing under the sign. It was not a human, not even close. It was a tiny alien girl, no taller than his knee, standing barefoot in the rain. Her skin was pale blue and softly glowing, her silver hair sticking to her face. She was holding a piece of cardboard with shaky hands, and it said in broken human writing, "I need work too." Evan froze, unsure what to say. Was she lost? Was this some kind of trap? Aliens rarely came alone into human districts, especially small children. But this one looked scared, hungry, and cold. Her big violet eyes lifted toward him, shining like glass under the rain. He crouched down slowly, his voice gentle. "Hey, are you okay? You shouldn't be out here." She hesitated, then shook her head. "I need a job." "Please." Her voice was soft and trembling. As if every word hurt to speak, Evan's chest tightened. He didn't even have enough for his mother's food. Yet here was this little alien girl asking for help. He glanced at the shop door and it looked abandoned, the lights dim inside still. The "Help Wanted" sign was glowing, so maybe someone was there. He stood up, opened the door slowly, and peeked inside. The smell of oil and burnt wires filled the air. An old man sat behind a counter filled with tools and broken machines. The man looked up, his face wrinkled and covered in grease. "What do you want?" he grumbled. Evan cleared his throat. "I saw the sign. Are you still hiring?" The old man raised an eyebrow. "Depends. Can you fix old tech? Not afraid of sparks or cuts?" Evan nodded quickly. "Yes, sir, I can learn fast." Before the man could reply, the tiny alien girl stepped in behind Evan. The old man blinked, surprised. "What's that? A kid? She with you?" Evan looked back. "No, I just—" But before he could finish, the girl walked to a broken drone lying on the floor. She touched it with her small, glowing hand, and suddenly the drone's lights flickered. The propellers moved, and it floated into the air. Perfectly fixed, Evan stared. The old man stood up, and the room filled with a soft humming sound. The little girl stepped back, breathing heavily. "I can fix things," she whispered. "Please let me work." The old man slowly walked around the counter, inspecting the drone. "By the stars, you just fixed a military model without tools." He turned to Evan, then to the girl. "Where did you learn that, kid?" She didn't answer, just hugged herself and looked down, shivering. Evan took off his jacket and gently wrapped it around her shoulders. She looked up at him, surprised, as if no one had ever done something kind for her before. The old man scratched his beard. "Well, I guess I could use help around here if you two don't break anything." Evan smiled slightly for the first time that night, but deep inside something about the girl made him uneasy. Her eyes seemed too knowing, her glow too bright. And when the lights flickered again, he thought he heard a faint whisper. Not from her, but from the machines around them, as if they were whispering her name. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Evan didn't know it yet, but this small act of kindness would change everything. The world saw her as a lost alien child, but she was something far more dangerous, something that would soon pull him into a secret war he didn't even know existed. And as the rain continued to fall, the "Help Wanted" sign flickered one last time, brighter than before, almost like it was welcoming them both. Morning light broke through the dusty windows of the small repair shop, filling the air with thin rays of gold and smoke. Evan woke up on a broken sofa in the corner, his neck sore and his hands covered in oil. The tiny alien girl, Leary, was already awake, sitting near a pile of metal parts, her small fingers moving fast, connecting wires like she had done it for years. The drone she fixed last night floated above her, quietly humming like a pet following its owner. Mr. Doran, the old shopkeeper, entered from the back door with 2 cups of steaming tea. "Morning, kid," he said to Evan. "You're still here, huh? Guess I didn't scare you off." Evan rubbed his eyes and gave a tired smile. "No, sir, thank you for letting me stay," Mr. Doran grunted. "Don't thank me yet, boy. This place is full of junk that can explode any minute." He looked at Leary, who was now taking apart a plasma chip without tools. "And her," he muttered. "I still don't know what to do about her." Evan looked at Leary. She was quiet, focused, her silver hair glowing faintly as she worked. "She just wants to help," he said softly. "She's not dangerous." The old man raised an eyebrow. "Not dangerous? Son, she fixed a high-tech drone with her hands. Without any power tools, that's not normal." Evan had no answer. He just watched as Leary carefully reassembled the chip. And suddenly the broken table light turned on by itself. She smiled, proud of her work. But there was sadness behind her eyes too. Mr. Doran sighed. "All right, you both can work here for a while. I'll pay you by the job, but if anyone asks, she's your sister, understand?" Evan nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." Leary looked up. "And sister?" she asked in her soft voice. Evan grinned. "Yeah, just pretend. It'll keep you safe." She nodded slowly, trying to smile, though she didn't seem to fully understand what safe meant. Hours passed. Evan repaired old radios and metal arms while Leary handled more advanced tech. Customers came and went, miners, scavengers, soldiers, all bringing broken machines from the war. Every time Leary touched one, it came back to life in seconds. Soon people started whispering, calling her the Machine Whisperer. Evan noticed the old man smiling behind his beard. Business was better than ever. But that night something strange happened. After closing time, Evan was cleaning the floor when he heard a faint humming sound coming from the back room. He followed it quietly. There he saw Leary standing in front of a pile of scrap metal, eyes closed, hands glowing blue. The broken parts around her were moving on their own, wires twisting, gears clicking, metal reshaping into new forms. Evan froze, his heart pounding. She was not repairing. She was creating. When he stepped closer, the lights flickered, and she opened her eyes, gasping. "Evan!" "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice shaking. "What are you doing?" he asked carefully. "I didn't mean to, it just happens when I sleep," she said, tears forming in her glowing eyes. He crouched beside her. "Hey, it's okay. You're just special, that's all." But she shook her head. "No, it's not okay. If they find me again, they'll take me apart." Evan frowned, confused. Who's looking for you?" She didn't answer, only whispered, "The ones who made me." Before he could ask more, a sudden knock echoed through the door, loud and sharp. Mr. Doran walked in from the front, his face pale. He whispered harshly, "Hide her now." Evan grabbed Leary and pulled her behind the counter. His heart racing through the door's glass, he saw 2 dark figures outside wearing black armor. With glowing red helmets, they entered the shop slowly, scanning everything with their strange devices. "Evening," one of them said in a robotic tone. "We're looking for a missing prototype. Alien origin, small size, capable of interacting with war tech." Evan felt Leary trembling behind him. Mr. Doran forced a smile. "Prototype? You think I'd hide something like that in this junkyard?" The soldier stepped closer, his red visor scanning the walls. "If you see anything unusual, report it. These units are unstable." Then, his scanner beeped, faint but real, pointing toward the counter where Leary was hiding. Evan's heart stopped before the soldier could move. Evan kicked over a pile of metal parts. The sound crashed through the shop. Sparks flew, smoke filled the air, and the lights went out. In the confusion, Leary's small hand glowed and all the machines came to life. Drills, drones, and saws whirling around wildly. The soldiers shouted, trying to control the chaos. Evan grabbed Leary's hand and ran toward the back door. They dashed into the rain through the narrow alleys, the neon lights reflecting off wet ground behind them. Alarms blared and mechanical voices shouted commands. Evan didn't stop until they reached the edge of the city. Gasping for breath, Leary clung to his arm, her small frame shaking. "I'm sorry," she cried. "I didn't want this." Evan looked at her glowing eyes, full of fear and innocence. He took a deep breath. "Don't be sorry. You saved us," but inside he knew this was just the beginning. The people hunting her were powerful, and now they knew she was alive. He looked at the city lights in the distance, flickering like stars drowned in fog. He didn't understand what Leary truly was, but one thing was clear. She was no ordinary alien. And from now on, neither was his life. The rain kept falling, washing away the smoke and the noise, but in the dark sky above, red lights from search drones began to appear again, moving slowly, hunting quietly. Evan whispered, "We'll find a safe place." "I promise," Leary nodded weakly, leaning against him and far behind them. The broken "Help Wanted" sign blinked one last time, as if warning them both that the job they took was never meant to be ordinary. The storm had finally passed, leaving the city cold and quiet. Evan and Leary hid inside an abandoned subway tunnel, where flickering lights still tried to fight the darkness. Broken signs hung from the ceiling. Water dripped from old pipes, and far away, the echo of the city's machines hummed like distant thunder. Evan built a small fire using wires and dry scraps of paper. While Leary sat beside him, her knees pulled close to her chest. She looked exhausted, her pale blue skin dimmer now, the soft glow fading like a dying star. Evan watched her in silence, thinking about the night before. Those men, soldiers in black armor, they weren't normal. Their weapons looked advanced, their scanners too precise. Whoever they were powerful, and they were hunting her. He finally spoke softly. "Leary, who are they? Why are they after you?" Leary didn't answer at first, her fingers tracing shapes on the cold floor. Then she whispered, "They called themselves the Retrieval Unit." Evan frowned. "Retrieval? For what?" She lifted her head, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "For me," Evan stared at her. Trying to understand, she continued, her voice trembling. "I was made in a place called the Wreckage Lab, far from here, in the outer colonies." Her small hands shook. "They built children like me from broken war technology, from pieces of machines that once fought. They gave us memories, feelings, even names." She looked down. "But when we began to think for ourselves, they called us dangerous. They said we were mistakes." Evan felt anger rise inside him. "That's not a mistake, that's life." Leary looked up, surprised by his words. "You don't hate me." He shook his head. "No, Leary, you saved me. You fixed machines with your hands. You're more alive than any machine I've ever seen." Her eyes softened, a tiny smile appearing for a moment, but then she said, "They'll never stop until they find me." Before Evan could reply, the tunnel trembled. He stood quickly, pulling Leary close from the far end of the tunnel. Faint red lights began to appear and scanning beams, moving slowly like eyes searching through the dark. Evan's heartbeat quickened. "They're tracking us." He grabbed his backpack and put out the fire. "We need to move." They ran deeper into the old subway tunnels. Their footsteps echoing, Leary followed silently, her glow flickering faintly like a weak lantern. The tunnel turned darker and narrower, and suddenly, they reached a dead end, a collapsed wall of concrete and steel. Evan hit it with his hands, frustrated. "No way out." He looked at Leary. "Can you do something?" "Like before?" She nodded weakly and placed her small hand on the steel. The air filled with a low hum, the metal vibrating under her touch. Then, a faint blue light spread across the cracks, melting the rubble piece by piece. Until a narrow path opened, Evan looked at her in shock. "How did you—" But before he could finish, she fell to her knees, breathing heavily, her glow fading even more. He picked her up quickly, carrying her through the hole, whispering, "Hang on, little one." They entered an old maintenance area filled with destroyed machines and broken drones. Most of the walls were covered in strange alien symbols, faded but still glowing faintly. Leary reached out to touch one, her fingers shaking. "These marks, they are from my people," Evan frowned. "Your people? You mean other kids like you?" She nodded slowly. "Yes. They were here once. We built things together. Before the soldiers came," Evan looked around. "The machines here were different, twisted and organic. Like part of them were alive." He touched one, and it pulsed under his hand like a heartbeat. Leary whispered, "We tried to make peace between humans and machines, but they called it a threat." Evan felt a cold chill run through him. "So they destroyed it all?" She nodded. tears falling silently. They burned everything. And I was the only one who escaped. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the tunnel. The sharp metallic step of armored boots. Evan froze, pulling Leary behind a broken transport crate. Voices echoed through the dark. Thermal signature found. She's here. Evan's mind raced. He spotted a broken energy core nearby and an idea formed. He whispered, "When I say run, go through that vent." "Don't look back." Leary looked terrified. "What about you?" He smiled faintly. "I'll catch up." As the soldiers entered the room, Evan threw the power core across the floor and grabbed a metal rod. The core sparked once, twice, then exploded. The blast filled the tunnel with blinding light and smoke. Evan felt the heat hit his face but didn't stop. Grabbing Leary and rushing toward the vent, they crawled through the narrow metal pipe, the sound of footsteps echoing behind them. Finally, they reached another open tunnel that led above ground. The cool air hit their faces as they emerged into a scrapyard filled with old ship parts. They collapsed behind a giant engine shell. Gasping, Leary looked at him, eyes wide with fear. "They will come again." Evan nodded. "I know," he said, looking at the city lights far away. "But next time, we'll be ready." Leary leaned against him, her small frame trembling. "Evan, why are you helping me? You don't even know me." He looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, "Because when I look at you, I see someone who's just trying to live, just like me." For the first time, she smiled. A real, warm smile that reached her glowing eyes. The night wind blew gently, carrying the faint hum of distant machines, and somewhere above, a red drone light passed across the clouds. Searching again, but down in the scrapyard, a human and a tiny alien girl hid together under the broken stars, two lost souls bound by fate. And far away, in the depths of the city, the retrieval unit leader whispered into his comms, "Unit 9 has been located. Initiate capture protocol." Night fell over New Terra City again, but this time the rain carried something heavier, the feeling of danger. Evan and Leary had found a small hidden workshop at the edge of the scrapyard. Surrounded by rusted ships and dead machines for 2 days, they had been fixing small tech to trade for food, keeping quiet, avoiding the streets, but deep down, both of them knew peace like this never lasted long. Leary sat on the floor surrounded by broken drones, her tiny fingers moving with careful precision. Each part floated gently in the air, glowing blue for a second before clicking into place. Evan watched her from the side, pretending to work on an old power cell. He couldn't stop thinking about what she told him in the tunnels, that she was built from broken war machines, that she wasn't meant to feel, yet she did every time she smiled. It felt human, and every time she cried it hurt more than he expected. "Evan," she said softly, the drones outside. "They're talking again." He froze. "Talking?" She nodded slowly, her voice small. "They're asking where I am." Evan quickly walked to the window, far away. Faint red dots moved through the foggy night sky. Search drones, dozens of them, sweeping through the scrapyard. He whispered, "Pack up. We need to move now." But before they could escape, a loud metallic voice echoed through the scrapyard. "Unit 9, you are ordered to surrender." Leary flinched, fear flashing across her glowing eyes. Evan grabbed her hand. "Don't listen to them," he whispered. "Run to the back. Go through the tunnel we built." She shook her head. "No. They'll find us anywhere." The ground shook as something heavy landed outside, a dropship, its engines roaring, lighting up the night with white fire. Soldiers in black armor poured out, moving with machine precision. Their red visors scanned the wreckage, their weapons humming softly. Mr. Doran's words echoed in Evan's mind. This job isn't safe. He finally understood how true that was. The door exploded inward, metal pieces flying across the room. Evan shielded Leary, then pushed her toward the back, shouting, "Go!" Blaster fire filled the workshop. Burning through walls and tables, Leary looked back once, her eyes glowing bright with tears. Then she disappeared through the narrow tunnel. Evan ducked behind a crate, grabbed a plasma wrench, and threw it like a spear at one of the soldiers. The hit made sparks fly, but the armor didn't even crack. A mechanical voice said, "Hostile detected." "Neutralize." Evan ran for cover, his lungs burning. He pressed a button on the old generator nearby. The lights went wild, flickering blue, and then burst in a flash that filled the room with smoke. In that chaos, he crawled toward the tunnel entrance and followed Leary. Inside, the tunnel was dark and wet. His breath echoing, he called out softly, "Leary, where are you?" Her voice came faintly from ahead. Here. Hurry. He followed the sound until he reached a larger chamber under the scrapyard, where piles of machine cores lay scattered like bones. Leary stood in the middle, her glow brighter now, her eyes fixed on something buried beneath the metal. What are you doing? He whispered. She looked at him with fear and hope mixed in her face. They called me Unit 9, but this is where it started. This is where they made me. Evan looked around. There were old tanks filled with liquid, empty now, cables still running along the floor. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls. The same kind from the tunnels. Leary touched one of the tanks gently, whispering, "My brothers and sisters were here. They're gone now." Before Evan could reply, the ground shook again, dust falling from above. The sound of boots echoed down the tunnel. They had found them. Evan pulled Leary behind a fallen beam, whispering, "Stay down." But she didn't move, her glow getting stronger. "I can stop them," she said softly. "If I connect to the old network, I can shut their systems down." Evan shook his head. "No, that's too dangerous. They'll find you faster." She looked up at him, her expression calm and sad. "They already have." A beam of red light hit the floor beside them, burning through the metal. The soldiers entered, their weapons raised. "Target locked," one of them said. Evan jumped out from cover, shouting, "Over here!" and threw a metal pipe at their scanners. It hit hard, sparks flying, but not enough to stop them. Leary stood, spreading her arms, her small frame glowing like a living star. The machines around them started to hum, the lights turning blue. Energy surged through the wires on the floor, climbing the walls, reaching the ceiling. The soldiers tried to fire, but their weapons jammed. Evan watched in disbelief as the machines came alive. Drones, claws, arms, all moving like they were under her command. The whole scrapyard trembled above. The soldiers screamed as their armor froze, their lights turning off one by one, then silence. Only the sound of falling metal and rain from above. Leary collapsed to her knees. Breathing hard, her glow fading again, Evan ran to her, catching her before she hit the floor. Her voice was faint. "I didn't want to hurt them. I just wanted them to stop." He held her tightly, whispering, "You did what you had to do." She looked up weakly. "They'll send more. Stronger ones," he nodded slowly. "Then we'll keep moving together." Outside, smoke rose from the scrapyard, and the rain turned into steam as it hit the burning wreckage. The dropship that had landed was now nothing but a broken shell, its lights dead from far above in the night clouds. A larger shadow moved, a massive ship watching from orbit. Inside it, a cold metallic voice spoke. "Unit 9 has reactivated core signal. Prepare the hunter." Back in the wrecked tunnel, Evan looked up at the cracked ceiling. He didn't know where they would go next, but he knew this. The world wasn't just humans and aliens anymore. It was something new, something dangerous, and Leary was at the center of it. He whispered to her softly, "You're not a weapon. You're hope." Her eyes flickered open, and for a moment she smiled through the tears. Then she whispered, "Hope can still break." "Evan." The rain outside fell harder, washing away the blood and metal. But somewhere deep in the scrapyard shadows, something new began to hum. Something Leary had awakened. Something that was waiting for her return. The night sky over New Terra burned with colors. Red lights, blue lightning, and the distant hum of war machines that never truly died. Evan ran through the maze of broken streets, his boots splashing in shallow puddles glowing from neon reflections. Behind him, the air was alive with the sharp buzz of drones, their red scanners slicing through the fog like angry eyes. In his arms, Leary trembled, her small body weak, her glow fading with every step he took. "Hold on," he whispered, his breath sharp and uneven. "We're almost there." But he didn't know where there was anymore. The city's lower ruins stretched endlessly, twisted bridges, half-collapsed towers, and shadows of old war machines rusting in silence. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed, and a mechanical voice echoed through the alleys. "Unit 9 detected. All forces converge." Evan ducked into a narrow passage between two metal walls. Pressing his back against the cold steel, he peered out carefully. A swarm of drones zipped past above them, their red lights sweeping across the wet ground. When the noise faded, he let out a shaky breath. Leary opened her eyes slightly, whispering weakly, "They're not just chasing, they're listening." He frowned. "Listening?" She nodded slowly. "Every drone is connected to their network. They can hear our heartbeats. Evan looked around desperately, then noticed an old maintenance door half buried in rubble. He kicked it open and they slipped inside. The smell of oil and dust filled the air. Old machinery still humming faintly after decades. Evan laid Leary down on a workbench, her small frame shivering. Her voice was faint. They know I'm alive now. The signal went to the orbit ship. Evan clenched his fists. Then we'll make sure they regret it. He searched the workshop, finding old tools, metal scraps, and a few working batteries. His mind raced. If she could connect to machines, maybe he could help her recover energy. He hooked up wires to a small generator and connected it to her wrist like a lifeline. The generator flickered, hummed, and slowly, her glow brightened again. Leary blinked up at him, a small smile on her lips. You're learning fast. He smiled back. You're a good teacher. Then suddenly, the lights flickered red. A deep metallic sound echoed outside, slow and heavy, like a beast made of iron waking from sleep. Leary's smile faded. It's not drones this time, she whispered. It's a hunter. Evan grabbed his bag and looked toward the door. What's a hunter? She swallowed hard. A machine built to track people like me. It can't be fooled, and it doesn't stop. The ground shook. Dust falling from the ceiling through the cracked window. Evan saw it, a towering machine with 6 red eyes and legs like blades, moving through the streets like a spider made of nightmares. Its sensors swept across the buildings, burning everything in its path. He whispered, We need to move. Now. He lifted Leary again and ran toward the back exit, bursting out into the open ruin. The streets glowed under broken neon signs, flickering with colors of a dead age. They ran through a collapsed marketplace filled with water and scrap metal. The hunter landed behind them with a crash, its claws digging into the concrete. It let out a mechanical roar that shook the air, then fired a beam that sliced through a wall, sending debris flying. Evan stumbled, covering Leary from the blast. She screamed softly, her glow flaring bright, and suddenly all the streetlights around them turned blue. The hunter paused, sensors flickering and confused. Evan looked at her, shocked. Did you do that? She nodded weakly. I can confuse its vision for a few seconds. Not more. Evan used that moment to drag her through a broken transport tunnel. The ground was slick, and the tunnel walls pulsed with strange light from leaking power cables. Behind them, the hunter's claws scraped metal as it followed. Unstoppable, they reached a junction where the tunnel split into 3 paths. Evan hesitated. Which way? Leary closed her eyes, touching the wall, her voice faint but calm. Left, there's an elevator shaft. Old but still working. They ran left, every step echoing like thunder. The sound of the hunter grew louder, faster, and closer. The ground shook with each of its steps, and the tunnel lights exploded from the vibration. Evan reached the elevator and slammed the button. Nothing happened. He cursed under his breath. Come on, come on. Leary raised her glowing hand and touched the panel, sparks flying. The elevator door slid open with a groan. They jumped in just as the hunter's claw burst through the tunnel wall. Evan hit the button again, and the elevator started to rise slowly. The hunter roared, slicing through the door, metal screeching. Its red eyes glowed brighter, its voice cold. Surrender. Unit 9. Leary looked at it with tears in her eyes. I'm not your unit, she whispered. Then she pressed her glowing hand to the wall, sending a surge of blue light through the elevator. The power spiked. The elevator shot upward like lightning. The hunter's claw missed them by inches as the door closed. They burst out onto the upper level, the city skyline stretching before them. Towers of light and fog, endless and broken. Evan stumbled out, holding Leary close, his chest pounding below them. Explosions echoed as the hunter tore through the tunnels trying to follow. Leary opened her eyes weakly. You saved us again. He looked at her, smiling through exhaustion. No, we saved us. The city lights flickered far below, neon rivers winding through the ruins. But above them, the orbit ship shone like a red star, watching, waiting. Evan looked up at it, breathing hard. Let them come, he whispered. We'll be ready. Leary leaned her head against his shoulder, whispering softly. Evan, if I disappear one day, remember, I was never a machine. He tightened his arms around her. You're not going anywhere. The wind howled across the high platform, carrying rain and smoke. Far behind, deep in the city's ruins, the hunter's broken body twitched once, then began to rebuild itself. Piece by piece, the chase wasn't over, not yet. The neon city below glowed like a living heart, and within it, Two tiny figures stood against the darkness, one human, one alien, running together through the ruins of a world that had already forgotten them. The city slept under a storm of light and shadow. Rain slid down the metal towers like tears on glass while thunder rolled through the sky. Evan and Leary found shelter inside an old observatory. High above the ruins, the glass dome above was cracked, letting in thin lines of cold rain that dripped onto the floor. Inside, everything was quiet, too quiet except soft humming coming from Leary's chest. Evan sat near her, wrapping her in his jacket. She was weaker than before, her glow fading into a soft blue flicker. He could hear her breathing, soft, uneven, almost like a machine trying to remember how to live. He whispered, "We can rest here tonight, no one will find us." But Leary didn't reply. She just stared at the night sky through the broken glass, her eyes reflecting distant stars. Finally she spoke, her voice gentle and trembling. "Evan, do you know why they built me?" He looked at her, surprised. "You said you were made from old war tech, right?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, but that's not all." She placed her small hand on her chest where the glow was strongest. "They didn't just build me to repair machines. They built me to merge with them." Evan frowned, confused. "Merge? You mean control them?" Her eyes turned bright for a moment. "No, become part of them." She took a deep breath that sounded more like static. "I was meant to connect humans and machines together, to end the fighting between them. But when I started feeling emotions, the scientists got scared. They said feelings would destroy logic, so they shut down the project." She looked down, tears forming in her glowing eyes. "They destroyed everyone like me." Evan felt his heart ache. He reached out and gently held her hand, feeling the faint hum under her skin. "You're not a mistake, Leary," he said softly. "You were made to connect hearts, not just circuits." For a moment she smiled, a small, fragile smile that lit up her face. Then she whispered, "But I'm breaking." "Evan?" He shook his head quickly. "No, you're just tired. You need rest." But she shook hers. "It's more than that. Every time I use my power, I lose a part of myself. My code gets weaker. My memories fade." Evan's voice cracked. "Then we'll find a way to fix you. We'll find someone who can help." She looked up at him with sad eyes. "No one can fix me. I wasn't meant to last this long." The room fell silent except for the sound of the rain. Then a soft vibration filled the air. The observatory screens flickered on by themselves. Blue symbols danced across the cracked monitors, glowing in strange patterns. Evan stood up quickly. "What's happening?" Leary stared at the screens, her voice low. "They've found me again." He rushed to the window. Through the fog, he saw faint red lights approaching from the sky. 3 ships, moving silently toward their location. Evan turned back. "We need to run." But Leary stayed still, her expression calm. Running won't stop them anymore. Her eyes glowed brighter as she stepped toward the main console, connecting her hands to the metal frame. Blue energy spread through the wires like living veins. Evan shouted, "What are you doing?" She whispered, "I need to know everything. The truth about me." The entire observatory shook, the screens flashing faster, voices echoing from the old speakers. Human voices. Distorted, a cold recorded tone said, "Unit 9, Hybrid Artificial Intelligence, designed to merge alien and human technology." Another voice added, "Status, terminated. Emotional instability detected." Evan froze. They had planned to kill her from the start. Leary's body shook, tears glowing on her cheeks. "I remember now. They burned us one by one. They said we were too human." She screamed as the lights around her exploded, waves of energy crackling across the room. Evan ran forward, grabbing her shoulders. "Stop. You don't have to relive it." Her voice broke. "But if I don't, they'll rewrite me. They'll turn me back into what they want, a weapon." He pulled her close, shouting over the noise, "You're not a weapon, you're alive. You're you." For a long moment the light dimmed, and she looked up at him, fragile, trembling but peaceful. "Thank you," she whispered, "for reminding me who I am, outside." The ships drew closer, red lights reflecting off the clouds. Evan looked around desperately, searching for a way out. Then Leary spoke softly. "There's one way to stop them." He turned sharply. "No, don't say it." She smiled faintly. "If I connect to their network, I can shut it down. Permanently." He shook his head. "You said that would kill you." She nodded. "Yes, but it will save you." Evan stepped back, eyes wide. "There has to be another way." but she touched his hand, her voice calm. Sometimes, the only way to stop hate is to give something pure back to the world. Tears filled his eyes. Leary, please, she smiled, her small fingers glowing brighter. Don't cry, Evan, you taught me something beautiful. That being human isn't about flesh, it's about choice. The walls vibrated as the ships arrived above. Red lights flooding the room. Evan shouted, Leary, but it was too late. She raised her arms, light exploding from her body, stretching out like wings made of pure energy. The ships fired, but their beams stopped mid-air. Frozen by her power, one by one, their systems shut down. The sky filled with falling metal and fire. Inside the observatory, the light grew blinding. Evan covered his eyes, shouting her name again and again. When the light finally faded, the room was quiet, empty. The machines were dead. The air cold, only Evan remained, standing in the silence, tears mixing with the rain. Then he heard it, a soft whisper through the broken speaker. Evan, don't forget me. He looked up, eyes wide. But there was nothing, just the faint blue glow on the floor where she had stood. He fell to his knees, whispering back, never. The storm outside slowly faded, and for a brief moment the sky above New Terra cleared. Revealing one bright blue star, it flickered once, the same soft light as her eyes. And Evan smiled through the tears, whispering, You're free now. Leary. The rain had stopped, but the city still wept. Smoke rose from the fallen ships that once hunted them, and the smell of burned metal filled the cold night air. Evan stood at the edge of the ruined observatory, staring at the empty sky where Leary's light had vanished. The glass dome above him was shattered completely, yet he felt like he was standing beneath a cathedral of broken stars. He could still hear her voice echoing softly in his head. Don't forget me. The words cut deeper than any wound. He closed his eyes, holding his chest, whispering her name over and over like a prayer. But the world around him had gone silent. No humming of machines. No blinking lights. Everything had stopped when she disappeared. For hours he sat in the ruins, his body shaking from exhaustion. The only sound was the slow dripping of water through cracks in the ceiling. He didn't know how much time had passed until dawn began to break. Soft golden light spilled through the shattered windows, touching the floor where her glow had faded. He looked down and saw something small, a piece of crystal, shaped like a tear, faintly pulsing with blue light. He picked it up gently, and the light flickered in rhythm with his heartbeat. Leary, he whispered, you're still here. Then he heard it, distant engines roaring through the morning sky. He looked out and saw dark shapes moving above the city. The retrieval unit hadn't been completely destroyed. They were regrouping, searching again. Evan's grip tightened around the crystal. He wasn't going to let them take what was left of her. He climbed down from the observatory, his legs weak but his will unbroken. The streets below were half destroyed, filled with smoke and glowing ash. The people of the city, the forgotten, the poor, the ones who lived among machines, were starting to wake. They stared at the sky in fear, whispering as the black ships passed overhead. Evan walked among them, his eyes burning with determination. He reached the scrapyard where everything had begun, the same place where he first saw her under the rain. The help wanted sign still hung there, broken and flickering. He smiled faintly, remembering her small face that night. Shivering, hopeful, he walked inside the ruined workshop. Everything was in pieces, walls burned, tools melted, but the old generator still hummed weakly in the corner. He placed the glowing crystal on the work table and connected it to the generator. A faint hum filled the air and the lights flickered blue. Come on, Leary, he whispered. If there's even a small part of you left, I'll bring you back. The crystal pulsed once. Then again, brighter, he adjusted the wires, tears forming in his eyes. You said you were made to connect humans and machines, right? Then connect with me one last time. The air trembled, the blue glow spreading across the room like soft lightning. And then, a voice, faint but clear. Evan, he gasped, looking around. Leary? The light grew brighter, forming a faint figure, small, glowing, beautiful. It was her, transparent, flickering like a hologram made of stars. Her voice was soft and calm. I don't have a body anymore, but part of me stayed here. Because you did. Evan's eyes filled with tears. You're alive. Somehow, she smiled. Not alive like before, but enough to see you again. He stepped closer, reaching out, but his hand passed through her light. Her image shimmered. Don't cry, Evan. This is what I chose. He shook his head. You shouldn't have had to choose at all. She smiled sadly. Every being has a purpose, even me. Mine was to stop the war, to show them that even machines can love. Outside, the sound of engines grew louder again. The black ships were descending. Preparing another strike, Evan turned toward the noise, anger flashing in his eyes. They won't stop. They'll destroy everything again. Leary looked at him gently. Then we'll stop them together one last time. Her glow brightened, spreading across the machines around them. Old drones, broken bots, and mechanical limbs began to move, their eyes glowing blue instead of red. Evan felt warmth spread through his chest as his small communicator beeped. Leary's code linking with his pulse, his thoughts, his voice, he whispered. You're inside the network. She nodded softly. I'm inside everything. Outside. The first ship fired, a beam of red light cutting through the air. Evan shouted, Now, Leary! Her voice filled the scrapyard like a song, echoing through every wire, every circuit, every broken machine. Blue light erupted from the ground, shooting into the sky like a storm of stars. The ships froze mid-air, their systems overloading. Their engines screaming, one by one they fell, silent, powerless. Sinking into the city below, the light dimmed slowly, leaving the world quiet again. Evan stood among the ruins, breathing hard. Surrounded by blue dust falling like snow, he looked at the faint hologram of Leary, her light flickering softly. She smiled. It's done, Evan. They can't hurt anyone anymore. He took a deep breath, his eyes wet. But what about you? Her glow began to fade. I have to rest now. My energy is gone, he whispered. Please don't go again. She smiled gently. I'll never be gone. Not really. Her light flickered one last time before fading completely. She whispered, Thank you for teaching me what it means to be alive. The room went quiet. Only the soft hum of the generator remaining. Evan stood there, holding the empty crystal that no longer glowed. He pressed it to his chest and smiled through the tears. You were never just a machine, Leary. You were the best of us. The morning sun rose over the horizon, painting the broken city in gold for the first time in years. There were no red lights in the sky, no alarms, no fear, only peace. Evan walked out into the sunlight, the crystal still warm in his hand. The help wanted sign flickered again, this time glowing soft blue. He looked up at it and whispered, I guess the job's done. Far above, high beyond the clouds, a single point of light shimmered, faint, blue and alive. It pulsed once like a heartbeat, and somewhere, in the quiet corners of the digital sky, a small voice whispered back, Evan, thank you.